And welcome to Haydenfilms Verge, episode number 7. Today we are here in Red Bank, New Jersey, visiting the Tigger Foundation. And I'm your host, Hayden Kredoff.
And my name is Darren Barron Jr., and I am the co-host today.
And Darren, why are we here today?
Well, we're here today because we're producing a high-level commercial and production for Tigger Foundation, and we have the opportunity to be able to tell their story this week. So we're really excited about that. And we also have some special guests as well that we're interviewing.
Oh my gosh, I can't wait to see the special guests. But before we get started, please, if you're interested in seeing any of our other previous episodes of the Haydenfilms Verge, please click the link up here on the left-hand corner in one of the cards. If you want to learn more about the Tigger Foundation and their services, and if you have any needs, please reach out to them through the card as well. And you're also going to see some of our summer camps for video production up there as well. Now onto our show. So I'd like to welcome Amy and Barton to the show. Thank you very much for having both of us today. So, tell us a little bit about this. Today's a pretty important day. Today's the grand opening of the new Tigger Foundation office. Could you share what that's excitement's going to be like?
Yeah, it's a very exciting day. Tigger Foundation, we've been around for 6 years now. We have amazing community partners, and one of them used to allow us to have space in his office. It was a beautiful setup. It was fantastic. The good problem is we grew.
Yeah.
And we outgrew our space, and we really needed some place to call our own. Our Student Alliance program is growing. So we needed a place to house the students and be able to do everything we want to do. So here we are at 93 Shrewsbury Avenue in Red Bank.
And it's a little different to call something your own, right?
Yeah.
To put the pictures up and decorate and do everything you want versus being in someone else's space.
Sure, definitely.
Just today's going to be a nice opportunity to open it up and show everybody what they've been doing so great around.
Yeah, so one of the big things just for our listeners out there and people that are viewing is obviously we need to learn about why was the Tigger Foundation started. And I know you guys were founded in 2013. Can one of you share the reason why the foundation was started to begin with, and what is the long-term goals of the foundation?
Sure. So Tigger House was started in 2013 due to the devastating loss of Ricky Stavola. He battled his drug addiction for many years. His addiction won in the end, and he overdosed. The Stavola family, heartbroken through all of that, vowed that they do not want another family to go through what they went through. So hence came the Tigger Foundation. Since our inception in 2013, we've developed programs within hospitals that have become so successful the state has taken over. So we are now focused on prevention in the community. We found that there's not a lot being done for high school students and prevention. So we formed student alliances in high schools and middle schools throughout the county. Our ambassadors, Bart is one of them. He works with our student alliance. He's a mentor for them. Any issues these kids are going through, any advice they need, anything at all, our mentors and ambassadors are there for them. It's really a great program. Our 5-year, 10-year goals is we want to go national. There's,
awesome.
Drug addiction, overdose, it has no boundaries. Whether you're rich or you're poor, it affects everyone. And it needs to be spoken about more. We need to break the stigma. And that's what Tigger House wants to do. We want to go national with this. We want to break the stigma. And we want to help as many people as we can.
That's awesome. That's a great story.
Right. Yeah, so Ricky's nickname was Tigger, and that's what his family and friends called him. So hence the name Tigger Foundation.
Yeah, I've seen some of the pictures back there, and he had the Tigger doll. Is that is that where they got the nickname from?
That,
yeah,
and stuff like that. And so the family, when they experienced what happened to them, the goal was to just stop this from happening to anybody else. If we can prevent this from happening to one person or one family, then the job is done. I mean, just saving one single life.
Every life matters.
But they're doing a lot more than saving one life.
Yeah,
right. Would you be able to relate an experience that you've experienced recently with a family that has been able to overcome this challenge, has been able to?
Unfortunately, we hear from a lot of families who are on the journey right now with their loved one who's going through addiction and substance use. We've also met with the families who just buried their child. I could think of, unfortunately, many stories. Recently, a young man passed away. He overdosed. His family is completely heartbroken, and their mission is to tell the story. They're finding healing, and we hear this a lot, is the families and the loved ones find healing in telling the story, in talking about what their child went through, that their child they weren't a drug addict. They didn't wake up one day and said, oh, good morning, today I'm going to be a drug addict. And I'm going to ruin my life. And it happens. It's extremely sad and unfortunate. But it's empowering when these families and individuals in recovery want to speak out about it and tell everybody what they went through, what their family went through, and that there isn't the other side. You know, it's a tough road, but when you could find yourself in recovery, there's so many rewards to that.
Exactly. So let me touch upon the word stigma that you used earlier. I know we all faced with someone that is dealing with alcoholism or drugs, and I know from my own personal experience and what we've dealt with as a family is that there's this stigma of going after the help. Finding the help. It's like you see your loved one suffering and sometimes you turn the blind eye. You know it's happening, but there's this combination of the stigma and codependency. Can you talk about that, and how can families try to break through that and come to the Tigger House Foundation and deal with some of that?
It's hard, right? I mean, I think a lot of people, their visceral reaction is hide it. I mean, don't let anybody know. Oh my gosh, this is happening to my family. I've raised my kids. I've done so much. And now my son is stealing TVs to pay for his addiction. And so a lot of people, it's just so foreign to try to ask for help. They really want to sweep it under the rug. And that's a big piece of what we do at Tigger House, is tell you it's okay. Come, talk about it. And it's not just the parents, but it's the students and the children, the brothers and the sisters who, through the Student Alliance here, are able to talk to peers in their school about what they're going through. I mean, you should hear what some of these students say, and the stories that they share, that, oh, well, we had a meeting and a student came and they haven't been able to sleep because they've been worried about their sibling for X amount of days, and so breaking the stigma and letting people know, like, this is a disease. You can talk about it. Let's get it out there and let's figure this out together, versus being so ashamed of it. There's no reason to be ashamed.
Are you seeing actual schools, high school, collegiate level, are they gravitating towards these types of educational programs more so today? Because there's a huge epidemic in terms of, the opioids, all of the different pills, the pharmaceuticals that are happening. What are you guys seeing for, really, you guys are boots on the ground, right? I know you're going to talk about the ambassador program, but walk us through what you're seeing at the school level in terms of dealing with this.
The schools are very excited about this program. Suicide, drugs, and mental health, they all go hand in hand. And we're just coming out of a global pandemic. The kids need help, and the kids are speaking out, asking for help. When we present our program to the schools, they are very excited for what we're doing. They love what we have to offer. The Student Alliance program isn't, don't do drugs. Drugs are bad. Drugs will kill you. The kids know that. I even go into the schools and I tell the kids, you could probably tell me more about the drugs than I can tell you at this point. What we're doing is we're focusing on health and wellness, rather than turning to drinking and drugging if you're feeling stressed, if you're depressed, if you just had a bad day, rather than turning to drinking and drugging. What are your other options? Well, go for a walk, go call a friend, go for a hike, go do yoga. We're trying to offer them other ways, other outs.
Sure.
Rather than putting.
And that's a good point, because a lot of people turn, when they're stressed, they're dealing with depression and anxiety, they turn to those things as a way to cope with those things. So my question is, how important is it to educate young people onto avoiding those things, avoiding taking that route? How important is that?
Well, it's so important that it's pretty much our focus.
It is.
Right?
Yes. So I can tell you, 98% of the families and loved ones we speak to who have buried their loved one have told us if there was a program like our Student Alliance when their child was younger, maybe it would have helped them. Maybe it would have steered them in a different direction. If they had a positive role model in their life, maybe they would have thought twice about doing it.
And it's not the thing to really always keep in mind when it comes to addiction is, yes, the parents, the one who's addicted, but it's the family who's really impacted the most, right? Because the user isn't necessarily thinking about everybody else. They're not thinking about how their brothers and sisters and family and cousins and everybody else is gravely affected. They're off getting high. And so having the ability for students to go and share and actually meet someone else that goes, oh my God,
you're dealing with the same.
Your brother does that too, or your sister, or doesn't come home at night or whatever it is. Like, oh my God, I thought I was the only one in the world.
So tell us a little bit about the ambassador program, because, I think, Amy, you just touched upon this. Mentorship is extremely important, especially when you're young and drugs are so focused in pop culture right now. Right. Everything from music to film to social, there's this acceptance now national that it's the gateway. Well, it's legal now, it's okay. But what are you seeing from a mentorship perspective in terms of someone like us and our responsibility to bring those children along?
Right. What's so impactful is when you're a young person, everything that happens to you seems like it's the end of the world, right? It seems like you're never going to get over not making the soccer team, or you're never going to get over a breakup, or you're never going to get over the fact that you got a bad grade. And so what we do as mentors is we try to work with them and teach them this is momentary, right? Let's work through this in a healthy way. As you talked about, we're giving them coping mechanisms. And we're there to say, hey, it's okay. We've been through this too. Things happen. There's not one straight path in life. There's multiple paths. And heck, some of us still don't know what we want to do, right? And so life can take many directions. The ambassadors are twofold. One, it's talking and mentoring the mentees that are in the Student Alliance. And second, it's just getting the message out there to the public of what we're doing here at Tigger House. We do so many really impactful things statewide. We have phenomenal programs. And so I think what we're really doing as the ambassadors this year that maybe we haven't been doing well enough that we really want to get out there is let people know what we're doing, right? Let them know the good work that we're doing here. And that's the job of the ambassadors. Go out and tell somebody.
Sure.
Go out. It's our job to tell them what we're doing here in the community.
Well, that's a really good segue with, the volunteers that come here to Tigger House. How can a volunteer impact your organization, and what areas of volunteerism is there at the Tigger House Foundation?
Volunteers, there's many ways people could help us at Tigger House. We have a lot of events throughout the year. They could help us plan our events. They could help us spread the word about our events. They can, most importantly, help us spread our mission. Our ambassadors, Bart is the head of our ambassadors. He's the chairperson. They're all amazing individuals in that they're passionate about our mission and they're passionate about wanting to help people. Our volunteers are the same. They wouldn't be coming to us if they weren't. So being in the community, just letting people know who we are, what we do, and how we can help is volunteer enough. But we do have events they can help with. We have help in the office. We always need help in the office. We're a nonprofit organization. And we encourage anyone, if they want to get involved, just come in and we'll figure out how we can get involved.
That's awesome.
And talking about getting involved, the one thing that I really like to stress all the time is you can get involved as little as you would like or as much as you would like. So many people say, like, I don't have the time, right? Or I can't, do this because there's just not enough time in the day. You can volunteer for 1 hour every 2 months, and that's great. Just be part of spreading the message.
Sure.
You could share our social media posts.
There you go.
That's all you need to do.
Definitely.
Yeah. Yes. And what has the response been from the students that are a part of the ambassador program? What has their response been and their experience in being a part of Tigger House Foundation and volunteering?
It's been fantastic. So this is my first year working with the Student Alliance. Bart's been with them a little longer. And we created a leadership team for the Student Alliance this year. And we created positions, and we asked the students to apply for the positions. And we didn't know what we were going to get out of it, right? We didn't know what kind of a response. Maybe no one's going to want to do this. The response was incredible. The students we have are beyond committed to this mission. They're very committed to their community. They want to make a difference. They're change makers. And I feel lucky that we have them. We had so many students apply for the leadership positions that we actually created more positions just because
That's awesome.
Their interest was so great we couldn't let it just go away. So yeah, these kids are phenomenal.
So I know you guys were talking about earlier, because of the pandemic and everything that we're dealing with, there's been a spike on alcohol usage, drug usage. Has statistics been coming out so far? Have you seen those statistics, and what have they looked like over this past 12 to 15 months?
29% overdose deaths have increased 29%.
Wow.
People who have been living a successful life in recovery have relapsed. That's all because of the pandemic.
Sure.
You know, your job was taken away from you. You're isolated at home. You're anxious. You don't know what's happening.
Can't go to counseling.
Go to counseling, but the liquor stores are open.
Yeah.
You can't play basketball, which you were doing once a week to blow off steam or whatever it is. I mean, there's a lot of different things.
So are you... I'm sorry.
Well, that's just the percentage of rise. But what is it, 83,000 in the last 12 months?
89,000.
89,000 people.
Those numbers are...
That's approximately 8 people a day dying of a drug overdose.
Yeah. So have you seen, because of those numbers are just astronomical, is there been an influx of corporate responsibility programs? Have you seen them reaching out to your organization, or do you see those types of programs becoming more prevalent from larger corporations trying to give back to the communities that are struggling with these types of overdoses?
There's certain organizations, right, who are being more active. For instance, you see a lot of things like the American Bar Association and dental associations who are starting to get more active with combating that. But the thing I've seen more than the drugs is people trying to nip it at the bud by doing psychological, really helping people with getting through stressful situations more so than drug-specific operations. But I think that really mental health has started for the first time in the last maybe year or two to be a player. People are saying mental health is critical. Why do we have so much homeless? It's not, because they don't want a job. It's because of mental health. Why do we have so many people addicted to drugs? Because of mental health. I mean, that is part of the root cause of a lot of this.
So what type of reason? Go ahead.
We had a very large corporation. One of the managers contacted our addiction navigator about a month ago, calling about one of their employees, concerned. I know there's substance abuse going on. Can you help? Our addiction navigator guided that person to help. The employer held the job for them. Super grateful for our help. Well, now this employer has called us an additional 4 times because the one employee received help. Other employees were going to that manager saying, hey, I know you were able to help so-and-so.
That's awesome.
So-and-so also has a problem and this employer, this is a very, very large corporation in America. This employer is holding these positions for these people for when they come out of rehab, and he's keeping their jobs because he understands they are not a druggie. It's a disease that they need to receive help for.
Yeah.
Sure.
And it's just such a fantastic story. And I hope the day comes where that stigma is gone and every employer sees it that way and supports their employee, and every individual for that matter. They support them and stand by them, not fire them and I want nothing to do with you ever again.
Exactly.
Yeah, that's not going to be part of the solution. That this creates more of the problem.
Exactly.
Following up on the homelessness and things of that nature. What if you had a crystal ball with the corporate responsibility that we were just talking about? How could corporations, individuals, how can they help not only the Tigger House Foundation, but is it money, is it resources, is it time? Walk us through what we could get from the community at large, corporate entities. How can they help us with this problem?
They can help us in many ways. Obviously, financially, we can use help. You know, we're a nonprofit organization. We are funded by the community. By all the corporate donations, the individual donations. That's how we're funded. The other thing they can do is talk about it to their employees, support their employees. Our addiction navigator, again, went to do a presentation to a company, and they gave their whole speech on what they do for Tigger House as the addiction navigator. And wouldn't you know it, the CEO of the company, when they were done speaking, the CEO stood up, smacked the desk and said, you know what? Today I'm celebrating however many years sober he was.
Wow.
And he announced it to everyone. He felt so compelled after hearing our addiction navigator speak and talk about it and made it comfortable to speak about that he was like, you know what? Screw it.
That's a great story.
I'm sober. Yeah. Today's my anniversary. And that's what it needs to be. It needs to be celebrated. Sobriety needs to be celebrated. It's nothing to be ashamed of.
Definitely.
And I feel like the more we can speak about it and celebrate it, the easier it'll be for someone with a substance use disorder, the easier it'll be for them to ask for help and to receive help.
Right. And you said nothing to be ashamed of. As someone who employs different people, I almost think it's a positive in a way that, like, you've taken something. It's almost like looking at someone who's going through college, right? It's a tough thing. It's a totally different experience, but they've gone through a really difficult experience, come out the other end. They've learned things. They've actually been able to tackle something extremely hard, overcome it. And I would say it's a plus, in hiring people, that they're able to overcome addiction.
And being able to help other people too.
Yes.
Exactly.
Also who may be struggling as well. So all of these positive experiences, how does this help Tigger House to keep going with your mission and helping in the community with people who struggle with addiction?
Well, running a nonprofit's not easy, right?
Yeah.
I mean, it's just, it gives you the mental...
It fuels our fire.
Yeah.
It really does.
As it should.
Our passion is even more so every time we get the phone call from a loved one who just lost their child, or from someone who our addiction navigator got them into detox and then into a rehab program 5 months ago, to have them call us and say, hey, I just want to let you know
the success
I'm
story.
doing great.
Yeah.
Right.
That fuels our fire. And not only that, but Mr. and Mrs. Stavola, speaking to them, Tigger is with them every single day.
Yeah.
When we walk in our office every single day, the first face we see is Tigger's. And it just brings it all right back to home, why we're doing this. People are losing loved ones over this. And we need to work on that.
And the important part is trying to save every life. Every life matters.
Yes.
And
I'll tell you need that fuel.
Yeah.
Because oftentimes it's easier to say, I give up. I've been trying to help this person for 5 years.
Well, that's another good
3
point.
years or whatever it is. But you've just got to keep going.
Yeah.
I have a friend who, it just makes me eternally beyond happy. He's been struggling with addiction for, maybe 12 to 15 years.
Wow.
I mean, really, the better part of his life. And 6 months ago, he got sober.
That's awesome.
It's amazing to see he is a different person. And so many people said, give up. He'll never get sober. There's nothing you can ever do. But you got to stick with it.
Yeah.
You got to keep going. And he's a different person now.
Yeah.
It's amazing.
And that support is very important to have.
Exactly.
Once someone is sober, it doesn't stop.
Well, they need more support.
They need
at that
more
point.
support.
Yeah,
They
exactly.
need more support. We
Right.
need to every single day call the individual, visit them, take them out, do activities with them, and I think that in itself can prove that that person can continue that sober being sober. Yeah.
Exactly. So, Amy, Bart, thank you very much for having us tonight. We're going to enjoy the open house and the ribbon cutting ceremony and getting to meet everyone in the team. And we're going to be on this journey with you to continue telling the stories. We look forward to that over the next coming months and years. And so everyone out there that is suffering with these addictions or have a loved one that's suffering with these addictions, please reach out to the Tigger House Foundation. All of their information will be in the description below. If you're looking to volunteer or support in any way, we would really appreciate it. Until then, continue making a difference.